All right, it is 5 o'clock, so I'll call this meeting of the Finance and Personnel Committee to order. Starting with the roll call, Alder Ackley.
Here.
Alder Flicky-Paneski.
Here.
Alder Perella.
Here.
Alder Feldy. Alder Feldy is excused. Mitchell is here. We have a quorum. Moving on to the Pledge of Allegiance, will you all please stand and join me? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, then faces around the room look pretty familiar, so barring any objections, we'll jump over introductions and move on to item number 5, which is approval of the minutes. Any discussion on the minutes from our last meeting? If not, we are looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion and a second, then seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye, the ayes have it, and the motion passes. With that, we are on to item 6, which is RO number 127 of 2122. Submitting a communication from the Harbor Business Improvement District requesting that the City of Sheboygan release all funds collected on their behalf and those funds allocated to them for fiscal year 2022.
Thank you, Chair. So this is an annual request from the Business Improvement District as part of the property tax collections. We collect a bid assessment, Business Improvement District assessment for those properties that lie within the district within the district boundaries, and then that money is captured and as a special assessment and turned over to the bid for their operating costs. This year, it's just over $150,000. If you're going to accept this, you would accept the RO and authorize the disbursement of the funds.
Do we have a motion in that order?
So moved.
Second.
Questions, comments? Alder Flicky-Paneski?
Do they have staff?
They do not. They contract with Green Bicycle Company, Heather Cleveland's group,
Okay.
and they provide the administrative support.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, then we have a motion and a second. So all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it, and the motion passes. On to item number 7, which is resolution number 40 of 2122. A resolution authorizing the appropriate city officials to execute the agreement between the Sheboygan County, or rather between the City of Sheboygan, Lakeland University, and Kohler Credit Union regarding the 2022 Memorial Day Parade. Mayor?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is kind of just a procedural agreement between all the entities that put on the Memorial Day Parade. It's the same as last year. It's the same groups and organizations that are putting it together. So attached is the contract and the IFC. So,
Questions or comments? If not, we'll be looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, then seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it, and the motion passes. Moving on to item number 8, which is resolution number 142 of 2122. A resolution authorizing the transfer of funds to repay advances made in 2017 to the Redevelopment Authority from the General Fund and the Capital Projects Fund.
Thank you. The resolution is just that, repaying these general fund and capital funds from the Redevelopment Authority. These funds were transferred back in 2017 for a land purchase, and the Redevelopment Authority has approved paying back those two funds.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, then we are looking for a motion to approve.
I move to approve with a thank you to the city from the Redevelopment Authority.
Second.
All right, we have motion and a second, then seeing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it. The motion passes. And next up, we have item number 9, which is Charter Ordinance number 2 of 2122. An ordinance being subject to the home rule provisions of Wisconsin Statute 660101 to authorize the city administrator to make certain temporary appointments when there are vacancies in department head level appointed offices where specific provisions for filling said vacancies is not otherwise provided by state law. Would anybody like to take this one?
I have a question.
Sounds good.
I have one question. One of the provisions says, filled by appointment for the residue of an unexpired term. Do the department heads have terms of employment? Are they contractual terms of employment?
Most of them do not. Let me find the section. Where are you at? Okay, yeah, 228A. So that is language that is left over. It is possible to have terms. It is possible to hire people with terms. It used to be that department heads all did have terms, and so that language is left over from that. However, I recommend that you keep the language in case you ever appoint somebody for a term.
Terms. So that's section A, when we go to section B, and then section D, when we say no longer than 90 days, and then the extension can come for 90 days. They aren't in conflict with each other?
No, this has to do with, those vacancies would be vacancies where you're appointing somebody to, for example, a board of review or something like that. Those you're going to be doing for the remainder of the term. The department heads, that's what's covered by these later ones where you're limiting it to 90 days. So you still have the ability to just like we always do, fill those non-department head sort of appointive offices like a member of the board of review or a member of some other city board for the remainder of their term. That's not changing.
Okay, so that's what the section A refers to?
Right. Section A is the general, and then Section B is the more specific, just for
For
department
those
heads.
particular categories, and then
Right.
section D says you can come back for another 90 days. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Alder Perrella?
You may have answered already. So 90 days, and then there will be a new resolution, right?
Yeah, so basically the way that it would work is that the administrator would have the ability to appoint for 90 days, and then they could extend that by coming to you for an extension for an additional 90 days.
With a new resolution? It
With
will come
with a resolution, yes.
with a resolution? right.
Yes, because
Okay.
there wouldn't be one, that you're giving the administrator the authority for those first 90 days just to fill it for those 90 days.
Right. But then if they want to refill it for 3 more months,
Then they come to you.
again, with the same procedure? Meaning,
Well, it's a different procedure because they actually have to come to you. So the administrator does not have to come to you as it's written for the first 90 days.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll be looking for a motion to approve on this one.
So moved.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second, then seeing no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it, and the motion passes. On to item number 10, which was a direct referral of resolution number 144 of 2122. A resolution authorizing an additional $200,000 of American Rescue Plan Act funds to be allocated to the Small Business Emergency Assistance Program.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a continuation of a document that the council approved on October 18th that allocated $160,000 of the American Rescue Plan Act funds towards the Small Business Emergency Assistance Program. We launched this program on January 24th of 2022, and to date have spent just about $150,000 of the $160,000, and we have two pending applications and another one today that would take up the remainder. So in the IFC, you can see who we had the funds awarded to. A number of small businesses, and what we're hearing from the business community is that there's a lot of them that are struggling with rising inventory costs, labor shortages, and supply chain issues, as we're hearing across the board, and that this money is coming at a great time for them to try to sustain themselves through the rest of this, and hopefully have more inventory-related things that will kind of level out and that they can kind of see where they're going to be in the future. However, with that, I've talked to at least another half a dozen, if not more, businesses that are working on applications, and as of the end of this week, we probably would be out of funding. So we're looking for another $200,000 to be dedicated towards this, and it's really based on the interest that we've had, and it's finally just starting to get out there to businesses as well. So we feel that this 200,000 really was a number, it wasn't a number, it was a number based on what we think demand is going to be, and we may hit it, we may not. But anyway, any result, it would come from some savings that the Department of Public Works has indicated to us. So there was roughly $9.5 million dedicated for the Lakeshore Interceptor Sewer project on the south side. And it appears that the majority of that will be funded with some state FEMA dollars, therefore opening up some opportunity for this funding to be reprogrammed. So that's really where this would come from. In the original resolution that the council approved on October 18th, it had a sense of the council that they thought it was going to be dedicated towards these items, and that it could be changed if determined other needs at the time. And I think just hearing from the business community, this has been these two programs, the one that was funded previously with CDBG, Community Development Block Grant, and this program has been kind of a release for a lot of businesses, and hopefully will be able to sustain some of the businesses. I think what we're seeing now is when the pandemic first started, a lot of restaurants, the Restaurant Association had come out and said that I think it was like 80% of the restaurants will close, and we're hearing those struggles now from a lot of restaurant owners. So I think having this fund in place hopefully can sustain them for a little bit and allow some of those to continue to operate and stay open.
Thank you. Administrator Wolf?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to kind of chime in and also point out the fact that what Chad and I have been hearing is that this money is actually very needed, because now that businesses are starting to open up, they need that money for inventory, because a lot of restaurants and small businesses had to destroy their inventory because of no business, and being able to restock it at a higher cost is part of the problem. And then bringing in employees, because again, we're still coming out of the COVID. They've had to increase wages while they're trying to increase their business. So this is kind of like a life preserver that's really helping businesses to maintain and rebuild after COVID.
Alder Perella?
First of all, I'm extremely pleased with the fact that we were able to support these businesses. I was very happy to read all to go through the list of the businesses that received it, the first tranche. And I'm very pleased, and of course I will support the opportunity for the second part. I was wondering if there is something similar coming up again also for nonprofit organizations of the community or not?
At this stage, I would say no. There's different regulations in there for nonprofits, so this funding and activity was really based around for-profit businesses. I guess, if there is a demand for nonprofits, we can look at that. We have given Out of block grant dollars last year, it's in our annual report, but $500,000 of money has gone to a number of nonprofits in the community. Habitat for Humanity, Family Service Association, Sheboygan County Food Bank, Meals on Wheels. So a number of nonprofits had received different funding from those other funding mechanisms. So, I know that there's probably still some demand out there, but, that's a decision the council's gonna have to make.
Thank you so much.
Alder Flicky-Pineski.
So this additional 200,000 will be for additional applicants?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I believe we'll be looking for a motion to approve on this one.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, then seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye, the ayes have it, the motion passes. Next up, then, we are on to item number 11. Direct referral of resolution number 144 of 2122. A resolution authorizing the appropriate city officials to execute the second agreement of development, or rather, second amendment of development agreement between Asker Apartments LLC and the city of Sheboygan with regard to the development adjacent to South 15th Street.
Thank you, Chair. So the city council, the common council entered into a development agreement with the Asker Development Group for the development of the Asker Apartments on the former Vandervaart on June 18th of 2020. As part of that agreement, there's a TIF incentive built in there. In that agreement, it had a final completion date of October 15th, 2021. Obviously, they haven't met that, and it's again related to supply chain and labor shortages. So they're asking for an amendment to the agreement to extend the completion date to May 30th of 2022, and they believe that they'll hit that date and finalize the project as of May versus their original proposal, which was October. That has no really impacts for us. It's a pay-as-you-go TIF incentive, so they have to create the increment totally, and then that's when we would pay them out. But we weren't making payments to them until the first payment wasn't due until 2023 anyway.
Questions or comments? If not, we'll be looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, and seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye, the ayes have it, the motion passes. With that, we'll move to item number 12, which is direct referral of resolution number 146 of 2122. A resolution authorizing the appropriate city officials to enter into a lease purchase agreement with Bell Bank Equipment Finance to finance the purchase of a 2022 Vector Impact Combination Sewer Cleaner with Freightliner M2 chassis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, this item is basically our sewer jetting truck, as we call it. The current one is 18 years old and scheduled for replacement. This was included in our capital improvements budget for this calendar year. Going to the lease actually will help the overall budget, because this actually, instead of a one-time outlay out of capital and coming out of the wastewater fund, this will be now more operational. It will be spread over a 5-year period. It's used a daily basis. It's used to clean. It's used to grease treat. We use it to grease treat lines throughout the city. So it's a very important piece of equipment for our sewer service area and in keeping our sewer system in good operating condition. So the truck is a smaller one. We have a much larger Vector as well for some of the more critical sewers that we have throughout our community. This one is a smaller version that provides a little bit more versatility than our current jetting truck as well. Looking for your approval.
Questions, comments? Alder Flicky-Paneski?
So are we going to have 2 Vector trucks or just one when we're done with this?
We have one large Vector truck.
Right.
And this one is a smaller version. It's because currently this is a newer model.
Okay.
Right now, our jet truck does not have the ability to extract and vacuum out the debris. So it's a much more labor intensive. We send the jet truck down and it's mechanically lifted out of the manholes downstream with buckets and scoops. This allows us to jet, and as we're jetting towards it, it's vacuuming out the debris at the same time.
So we're still going to have.
We're still going to
gonna
have two. One
trucks.
large one, because the larger one is critical for our lift stations and some of our larger assets and larger sewer system pipes. This is used more on a daily basis in all our residential areas, for instance. So we have 2 currently, as of right now.
Okay.
We do. This isn't in addition to the fleet. This is replacing the old 18-year-old smaller jetting truck. So we have 2 today. It's just replacing the older one that we currently
The
have.
old little one.
Correct.
So we're 2 for 2 here.
Yep,
Thank you.
exactly.
Administrator Wolf?
Thank you, Chair. Correct me if I'm wrong, Director Beeble. The larger one, we do lease presently.
Yes, and we found it because it is such a complex piece of equipment for maintenance, the lease includes a maintenance agreement with it, and we found it to be very, very advantageous for our department to lease versus
And
buy.
what I was gonna point out was when we did decide to go to the leasing, it was because of the technology changes and the fact that a lot of wear and tear on these vehicles. So when you look at the cost benefit, it was very easy to decide to lease it compared to purchasing it, because you're still making payments on the value when it's breaking and falling apart.
Yeah, in fact, the first lease we had expired and we renewed the lease, and the second lease was actually less expensive than the first lease because of the value of the vehicle that we've traded in. So it's
basically what I wanted to help emphasize was the fact that we do have 2 units and we need to go to the leasing option, which is what we're putting forward, to actually save the city money and have better performing equipment for the city.
That would be correct, yep.
Thank you.
Alder Perella?
Yeah, I apologize. I wasn't at the Public Works Committee, so I had a couple of questions on this. So the total price is the $329,215 and so here there is the payment from 2022 through 2027. What happens at the end of the 5 years or the 6 years, depending?
The lease would expire, and we would turn this vehicle back to the lease company, and then we would lease another brand-new Vector as this one. And what happened, we did this with our other Vector piece of equipment, and actually the second lease was less expensive than the first lease. So that's what we're anticipating in 5 more years, when this lease is up, we'll turn that vehicle back in with a new lease to get a newer vehicle.
And will you be able to get it right away, or it has a long?
Actually, no, since it's a lease, they program in the new vehicle for us. That's one of the advantages as well. They have it programmed in, so by the 3rd or 4th year, they're already programming in that by that 5th year, they'll have a new vehicle for us to lease.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If not, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be looking for a motion to approve.
So second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye, the ayes have it, and the motion passes. And moving into items for discussion only, starting with item 13, the annual report from the city clerk's office.
Thank you. Our annual report for 2021 is attached in your Muni code. Our team at the City Clerks is composed of 3 full-time people, myself, Melissa, who's our deputy. We had another Melissa join our team in June, which has been challenging at times with 2 Melissas in our small office, but she is our licensing council clerk, and Cheryl, who is our election specialist. And the report really highlights some of the accomplishments of our office, focusing on customer service to our community. We've had only 2 elections in 2021, but we really filled our time with other things. With the redistricting, we've added 2 polling locations. We're in the process of changing our meeting management from Board Docs to Municode. And then the last page of the report really looks at all the licensing, not all of it, but most of the licensing we do, and the statistics revolving around that. I think it's very interesting that the statistics in the licensing, it has stayed pretty much the same even through COVID. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions?
The current setting, the current workforce that is part of your team is now sufficient? Do you feel that that is enough?
I believe with what we have, we always, with our elections, we have a lot of temporary workers. So we have probably 200, it says on here how many that the mayor just assigned, but we have over 250 election workers. So when our time gets really busy, we will pull in our poll workers to help us in the office with things that we need to do. So that's very helpful.
And that happens anyway, right? That would happen, and it happened in the past already. It's not a new thing, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I just have the observation I needed to get something done in City Hall and, well, something done in the city. And I think I made 4 phone calls and had leave your message or press 3 and in frustration, I picked up the phone and called your office and I got a human being. Thank you very much. And I also understand that when you get called, your office gets called for a lot of things that aren't your office.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate the versatility of your phone answering staff and sending them to where they need to go.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on this one? If not, thank you.
Thank you.
And next up, we have item number 14, the annual report from the Human Resources Department.
So our annual report was also attached, and we'll kind of walk through it. So for our year, we've had a lot of staffing changes within 2021, from starting the year with just 1 HR generalist. Do you want me to plug in and present? Or do you guys have it?
We've got it.
We have it.
We've
Have
got
it? Okay. So starting the year with 1 HR generalist position open. Throughout the year, our payroll administrator moved from within the HR team over to the finance team, and we had an HR assistant vacancy. I began in July, Nicole began in September. In between there, we had another generalist leave. In November, we had our director begin a leave of absence, and she is still out on a leave of absence. And then in February, actually last week Friday, Pam, our HR assistant, had given her notice, so last week Friday was her last day of employment also. So the team typically consists of an HR director, 2 generalists, and an HR administrative assistant. We are currently with just in the office right now, myself and Nicole, 2 HR generalists. So our successes for this past year, having been here just half a year, we tried to put together the successes from this past year. We got some help from Caitlin, Carrie, and Todd to put together our successes. We did do some consulting work that came in. They provided some leadership and guidance to the HR team about the breakdown of duties within the HR generalist roles and where we should be going from there. During open enrollment last fall, I completed 15 employment presentations throughout the city to all of our benefit eligible employees, made it available to them. At least 15, I think it was more when you count in the police roll call meetings. So making benefits education kind of a key priority to our employees last year so that they could really understand the benefits that the city offers to them and the fact that our benefits are at about the 89th percentile compared to other plans out there in the market. We completed performance evaluations and the related salary changes on time. We're continuing to build relationships with all the departments and starting to centralize some of our functions back within HR. Last year, we were really focusing on FMLA and now the recruiting processes and trying to bring those back to our team. We did our EEO4 report based on the information that we could find in the system. We utilized Munis fully to do this report. Based on what we could see in the system, we're not positive that they were using Munis to its full capacity in the past. So making sure that we're utilizing the systems that we have in place to do accurate reporting. We updated our onboarding paperwork for a better candidate and onboarding experience for our employees. With Caitlin's help, we completed a health insurance audit and cleanup of our retiree health insurance to really get that plan cleaned up, making sure that people are paying when they're supposed to and who's supposed to be on the plan is on the plan, and those not on the plan are not on that plan any longer. We also added in the fact that anyone over 65 will no longer be able to stay on the retiree health insurance. At that point in time, we're going to encourage them to be going to Medicare or other resources. Our wellness committee was revamped to be the well-being committee, and we initiated the Go 365. Go 365 is a wellness program that was actually implemented in 2021, at the beginning of 2021, and not fully rolled out. So did some rollout this year at the end of 2021, beginning of 2022 for all employees. And then we utilized resources from our partners to implement best practices within the department. We initiated the Carlson-Detman study, and that is still in process at this point in time. And then we initiated mandatory employee trainings starting in the fall with the creating sustaining authentic relationships in the workplace conversation there. Our turnover, we had in 2021, 54 separations and 44 new hires. So current employee count for our non-poll workers was 446, so we had a turnover percentage of about 12.1. That is a little bit higher than we have had in the past. And then new hires, obviously, you're going to see quite a bit of a difference there. I would add that we had about 10 new people start in January. So a lot of those people, we held off to start them after the new year. So we did have a very big influx in that first week of January of new hires too. Our health insurance, we obviously presented to the committee on that in the fall. We did make some changes to the health insurance for 2022. We did have a slight rate increase within the health insurance from 2021 to 2022, but we also combined the medical and pharmacy out-of-pocket maximums within that plan. We moved from UMR managing our pharmacy benefits, which is supposed to provide us a pharmacy savings of approximately $20,000 there. So our annual costs up here, you can actually see what the total employer cost is for health insurance each year, depending upon what level of coverage employees are. So that is what the city is paying on that far right column versus what the employees are paying. And then we are working to implement the wellness rates for 2023. So employees will be required to complete a biometric screening and a health assessment in 2022 to get the best rates for 2023. Our total annual costs, so our projected was 6.7 million, ended up being just over 6 million for 2021. Our stop loss rate is at $165,000. So stop loss, meaning that if an employee gets over that amount in claims, then our stop loss coverage will kick in. Up until that, it's all on the city for any of those medical expenses that come in. And then from a dental perspective, our dental, we had no rate change for 2022. So those costs remain the same for our employees. We did add what's called evidence-based integrated care and Checkup Plus. Those are two additional benefits for our employees. The evidence-based integrated care says if you have certain conditions that affect your oral health, such as dialysis, pregnancy, certain cancers, you can actually receive 4 cleanings per year covered underneath the plan versus the 2. And then we added what's called Checkup Plus. So before, where you had $1,500 or $1,500 towards dental work, your 2 checkups would come out of that $1,500. Now you get the 2 checkups plus $1,500 towards your cleaning or your cavities, your crowns, your bridges, that type of work. So our goals for 2022, We want to update and revise the employee handbook and get that distributed to all employees. We want to make sure that when we're reviewing that handbook and all of our policies that we're including the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging perspectives. We want to return to the utilization of Munis, which is our system throughout the city to do employee open enrollment. There is some limitations within Munis based on our current plan design, so we're working to review those plans and making sure how we can utilize Munis for open enrollment for next year. Want to resume the employee recognition event for years of service and retirement. That was kind of postponed due to COVID, but I also want to work towards a culture of employee recognition throughout the year. If somebody hits their 25 years, it should be celebrated within their department. It should be celebrated and a small thank you to them. So making sure that we're recognizing our employees for their years of service. We want to update our NeoGov software to interface with Munis so that the employee experience can start from an onboarding and an applicant experience and flow through to Munis better, both on our side and on the employee side. Continuing to complete benefits education and making sure that resources are available to all employees. Right now, there's not a good place for employees to go if they want that benefits information other than coming directly to the HR department. So making that information available to them throughout the year. Implementation of the Carlson-Detman compensation study. And then we want to track employee training within Munis so that we can run reports on who's completed training and when. And create a formal offboarding or exit process for separations and retirements so that employees truly understand their benefits as they leave the city and what comes next for them for benefits. If there's payout information or COBRA information for them, that they understand that. Continuing to focus on our best practices to make the city an employer of choice and continuing to strengthen our interdepartmental relationships and the support provided by the HR department. One of the bigger things that we are working on for 2022 is also employee trainings. With the help of Carrie and Todd, we have all employee training set up for anti-harassment training on March 9th. And then we're going to be doing another DEI training in fall of 2022 yet to be scheduled. Additionally, we are looking to implement supervisory leadership training that started in January by doing some timekeeping training for all supervisors. So all time card supervisors received FLISA training in January of 2022. We have 3 days coming up where managers will receive training through CIVMIC, who is our insurance partner. They are inclusive leadership, so making a difference with difference. That will talk about civility, bystander intervention, and generational differences. The succession planning will talk about the foundation of a succession culture, an analysis and conversations with staff, and then the 9 steps to implementing a formal succession plan. We've talked a little bit today about the management meeting that we have a lot of employees who will get close to retirement in the next few years, so making sure that we are planning ahead from a city perspective in that way. And then leadership, people view, making sure it's the difference between manager and leader. It's a mindset change, being able to motivate and enable others through that program. And then we will have a short generational differences presentation on April 27th, or training on April 27th. And then we are looking to do HR-related training of processes and procedures, including FMLA, workers' comp, onboarding and offboarding, to make sure that we are being consistent across the city and that we are providing the resources from HR team to our different departments. Any questions?
Questions, comments?
I have one.
Go ahead.
Thank you. When you talked about the $165,000 stop loss on our insurance, is that per person or is that aggregate?
That's per person.
Thank you.
Administrator Wolf?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to tell the committee that the team that we have right now is an amazing group where they have taken on so much responsibility, so much accountability, and they're doing a fantastic job. We don't realize day in and day out how much HR is integral to everything that happens, not just from the hiring, but throughout the city. The calls that these ladies get every day is just amazing, and how they've stepped up and really embraced the needs of the city and the teams that we have. And we know that we have some difficult challenges ahead of us, but I just want to make sure that everybody realizes that every day they're doing above and beyond what normally happens we have so much building to do and remodeling, as I call it, with our policies, procedures. Things are so outdated and just missing. So again, I tip my hat and say thank you so much for being a part of our team and being part of the growth and success for the future. So thank you.
Alder Perella.
In fact, first of all, thank you so much for holding the HR fort, the two of you. I cannot even imagine how you are doing, just the two of you in the department. It's amazing. I cannot even really imagine. So how are you doing?
We're getting through every day, one day at a time. So we've talked, we're getting some support from somebody to help us out with, from an administrative perspective here, starting this week. So we'll have that, and then working towards support on other projects and things to help take off the other processes that, we're kind of handling the day-to-day stuff, but trying to get us to move on some things also, so.
I assume the third position will be posted soon if it is not posted already, right? Because that one will be replaced.
Correct.
Okay. And do we have any update on the director of HR? I'm not sure when the leave of absence ends and if there is any update.
Let Administrator Wolf take that one.
Thank you. The HR director is on a leave of absence, and at this time, we do not have any idea of when she is looking to come back, but we wish her the best, and we look forward to her return.
Thank you. I have one more question. I can wait for, if I need to.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering, what is the plan about the DEI? So you said you're going to update the employee handbook to reflect, I assume, DEI culture and standards. Are you going to seek help from a third party, or are you going to do that yourself?
We are not looking to fully complete the handbook by ourselves. We are looking at some resources from that perspective. Todd is engaging with other resources too, from looking at all of our DEI options in that way. So we are, at this point, not looking to do it all on our own that way.
Thank you so much.
I don't know if Todd wants to add anything else there.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. Just to enlighten everybody, we are working with some outside resources, as Jen had alluded to. The hardest part right now is not just municipal, but also in the business world. The HR field is in dire need, and I'm going to use the word dire, need for assistance and professional positions being filled. So we are reaching out to different groups to help us on this, and we're presently on the wait list, patiently, to bring somebody in to help us with our development of our policies, procedures, and handbook.
Any other questions or comments? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we are on to item number 15, the annual report for the Finance Department.
Hello, thank you. We are presenting for the Finance Department tonight. The mission statement and vision statement are on the screen. I think from my point of view as the Finance Director, I have always preached, I think, to the whole department that really our role in the Finance Department is to make sure we're accountable to all the taxpayers. Taxes are something that everyone is required to pay, and they have no say in that, so we really want to make sure that we are doing our best to keep everything in line for budget, for planning, for anything financial. It's really important just to make sure that we're being as transparent as we can, and also just good stewards of everybody's money. So that's where I find the Finance Department's importance. I have to say, kudos to my finance team. The picture's up on the screen. We have had a lot of changes over the past year, also similar to HR, as just the notes are the changes. I started back in June. Jessica Huss was promoted to Deputy Finance Director in July. The financial reporting analyst resigned in November, but we have filled that position. She started 2 weeks ago. So we're excited about that. We do have an opening still in finance for the grant accountant and internal auditor position. The payroll specialist moved from the human resources department into finance to get some segregation of duties and make sure that the people entering the information are paying the same people. So that's been good. Then the accounts receivable specialist doesn't have a note because that's our 43-year veteran of the department. So we're very excited to have Doris in the team. We also, Mike, the accounts payable specialist, started just over a year ago. So he was hired at the end of 2020. And then the general accountant was hired about 4 weeks after I was, and she started at the end of June. We also do have the purchasing agent that we share with the county. That's Bernie Romer, so he's not pictured, but we will have to get an updated picture now that we have a couple more people on our team. So for 2021, our accomplishments included mapping all the 13,800 Munis general ledger accounts to the new proposed format. That's going to be following the state of Wisconsin's uniform map of accounts. So we do have our second pass at the testing this Friday. So they've been updating the code to fix some of the errors that occurred during the first test. So we're working and hoping that the second pass goes a little better. It did go pretty smoothly, I'd say, but there are some flaws that we have to work out. I'll say we're down over 10,000 accounts, so we're just over 3,600 at this point, which still could get changed a little bit. We did increase the accounts receivable collection efforts, and we started sending statements that hadn't been done in the past, which is why we had to write off a big number, unfortunately, last year for the accounts receivable side. So now we are starting to, or we have started sending statements every month to make sure that we are collecting, and we actually have completed an RFP. We just got the results of all those proposals, and we will be bringing forward a RFP. Goodness, I'm losing my words. Sorry. We're going to be bringing that for award in the next few weeks here just to get the municipal debt collections on the books so that we are following up on the people who are not paying us. We did collaborate, I shouldn't say we, Jessica collaborated with the planning department to implement the new loan tracking software. This happened before I started, but I heard that that was a bear of a project, so I'm very excited that that's underway, and I know she worked hard with the planning department to get that implemented. They also introduced the check scanner to deposit checks from City Hall rather than going to the bank. So those checks are hitting our accounts immediately rather than a couple days worth of checks going to the bank or needing to have someone go to the bank to actually deliver those checks. Also, before I started, they increased the auto insurance deductible from $1,000 to $2,500. That was an estimated $19,500 in annual savings. The 5-year revaluation process did start with GROTA appraisals, and that was to fix the issue of us being out of compliance since 2018. So that 5-year process is underway. They consolidated internal monthly journal entries to annual entries, which was a reduction from 2,100 entries to 79. So that's just a huge time savings from multiple people in the department, considering you have to enter it, approve it, post it, and that has to have separation of duties as well. And we also started working with our new auditing firm, Baker Tilly, which is going very well. They're digging into things that have probably never been dug into in years. So I'm excited and nervous to see what they will find. But that is exciting. And also the parking stall rental billing got moved from the AS400 into Munis. We also helped the Human Resources Department in the time of transition, helped with several projects, and hope to be able to help them moving forward as well. A few financial policies were adopted, including the long-term investment, fund balance, and TIF code of ethics. And there were several accounts payable process improvements, including implementing ACH and ACI payment options. ACI is called active card integration, We actually send a credit card number to the vendors and they can use it immediately. And they can actually pay others then with that credit card is the concept. We get a percentage back on the amounts that we pay that way through our bank. We changed the check runs from weekly to semi-monthly to reduce the number of checks that we were processing. And we also created a AP vendor information package, which is posted online for any new vendor. It includes the ACH and ACI information so that they can get signed up for that right when they become a vendor. And we also are looking and continue to hope to create synergies between finance and other departments. I think finance department got a little siloed in the past, and we really want to make sure that we're bridging those gaps and helping other departments understand why and what goes on in finance. And then we also started working with Ehlers, our municipal financial advisors, on the 5-year financial strategic plan. You saw the first portion of that through the TID presentation that happened last week, and we'll have the final 5-year financial plan coming forward in a few weeks. Here are just a few key metrics for the department. You can see that the accounts payable checks went down by about 1,500 from 2020 to 2021. That was a combination of reducing the number of check runs we do, but also that introduction of ACH and ACI, which was 718 for 2021. We hope to continue to push the ACH and ACI options to our vendors because it just is so much less work for the finance department and they get their money so much quicker. Credit card payments processed went up by about $300,000. We are offering more options for people, and we're going to hopefully expand that in the future with Tyler Payments, which is a goal for 2022. And then the taxes collected by the first installment due date, this, we're hanging strong about $53.6 million collected by the city during that first installment. This next slide is just to show the volume that was collected here at City Hall. We have the assistance, luckily, of the three banks in Sheboygan, the Wisconsin Bank and Trust branches. But we did offer payments in person this year for all residents and taxpayers. And we did get a lot of positive feedback that they didn't have to drop and wait for a receipt in the mail. We were handing receipts back immediately at the counter and also doing refunds with cash instead of having to process checks. So the amount that was collected just at City Hall was $42.5 million, and that was in about a month and a half's worth of time. For 2022, our goals and projects include a lot of process improvements within the Munis system, completing the chart of account redesign, implementing the project and grant ledger modules, special assessment and delinquent tax billings into Munis. Those are currently on the AS400. Implementing the capital asset module. That's going to be a huge undertaking considering all of our assets are currently tracked on a spreadsheet. Our bank reconciliation process, we're hoping to get into Munis. That again is an interesting process at the moment. We have about 3 separate spreadsheets just to get to one reconciliation. So we just did a training with Munis to hopefully get that into Munis as well. And I'm working with the payroll specialist to get the retiree billing into Munis. Right now, we're working again on spreadsheets. We have some that were put in at one point, but we actually will track the actual value of their sick banks that can be used towards their retiree health insurance. All that can be tracked in Munis. So we have started working on that project and hope to have that finished in the next probably 2 months here. And then as I mentioned, Tyler Payments, that is a product that is for credit card processing that actually talks right with Munis, and so it will help us with even the bank reconciliation process and offering credit card processing for almost every type of bill that you would get through the city. We also would like to host Munis training for other departments on the financial functions to expand the usage of the system. One of my pet peeves, and I know some department heads will have heard me say this, but they are tracking both in spreadsheets and in Munis. And they tell me that the Munis is not good data, and I want to get their confidence and help them get rid of the spreadsheets so that they're not duplicating the efforts. So, no, it's not Chad. But that is one of my, big pushes this year is we have this. I personally love Munis software. A lot of people don't, but if it's set up correctly, it really does function well. So that's my goal, is to be a big advocate to get rid of spreadsheets. And then we also are doing vendor maintenance, encouraging other payment methods and consolidating duplicates and update information. We sent out a big mailing to all vendors trying to get them to sign up for that ACH, and we're going to keep pushing that again to save and become more efficient on the accounts payable side. And then we also are working on completing a review and update on the accounts payable process for consistency. We did a survey of all of the departments, and literally not a single one is doing the same process. So we're hoping to make sure that they're all doing the same process and following up the policies that are in place. We also are looking to complete the 2021 audit. They are coming back in April for a couple weeks, and so we're hoping to work with them to develop some of these best practices and also use their advice on how to get some of these departments back into the processes. Cross-train to make sure all duties have a backup within the department. That's one thing that we've noticed. If someone's out, the team has stepped up and done what they can, but that is one area that definitely could be improved. We are going to review investment broker options, probably through an RFP. We have two groups right now that are reviewing and have our funds, but we would like to make sure we review that every 5 years probably is the best. I mentioned that we are going to do the debt collection RFP. We'll be bringing that forward in the next few weeks. We are going to finish the 5-year strategic plan and implement the strategies determined. We are going to begin reporting quarterly financial data to the Finance and Personnel Committee. So this is something that we should be doing already, but the data hasn't quite been where we need it to be. So that is my goal. By the end of the year, you will be getting financial data from the Finance Department more frequently. And then we also would like to update and adopt additional financial policies, including purchasing, donation, and credit card. That's just a small list. There are plenty more to do, but that is where we're starting.
I think we have different definitions of small list, but discussion from committee members?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm not quite understanding the ACH, ACI credit card money flow, vendor flow. Go, just give me an example and make that work for me.
Sure, so ACH and ACI are two different options to receive payments. So you can our normal way to pay vendors is through checks, but we offer ACH, which is an automatic credit to your account, and ACI is through our bank, but it's sending them a credit card number that they can use kind of as a one-time purchasing method to pay other vendors for it. So the ACI, because the bank receives fees based on credit card transactions, we receive a portion of those fees back. So the ACI actually makes us money, ACH saves us a lot of money, and checks cost us a lot of money.
Okay, go back to the space where you said, and the vendor can pay vendors. That's what for
Yep.
the ACI.
Sure, so it's as if you got a prepaid Visa card and it had $500 on it, you could then use that credit card anywhere you would like with that $500. Our payment is ending up on this virtual card, and they can then take that card and pay others with it.
They, the supplier to us, can pay.
Yes,
Other-
our vendor can pay their vendors.
That's it.
Like they would get a gift card from us and they can go and.
They can go and use the gift card.
It's called a virtual Visa card.
Swell.
Virtual.
Okay.
Is it on blockchain?
Pretty soon it'll be Bitcoin. Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Think about our I was thinking the Rupel.
No.
Administrator Wolf?
Thank you. I just wanted to add a few comments for the committee. Even when I first became the city administrator, we brought a lot of information, clean laundry, dirty laundry. I just want to commend the finance department. Caitlin, since you've been on board, you have done a phenomenal job. Jessica, I mean, I can't say enough. The loans program was so huge. People have no idea how phenomenal and messed up it was, where you literally, and I just want the committee to understand, you literally had to go back and get the original contracts, correct me if I'm wrong, the original contracts, many of which were paper still, and define how it was written. And again, as I said, we're not doing that anymore. We're going to have standardized loans, but many of the loans had their own uniqueness to them, and people don't understand how complicated that means. I also just want to point out all of the efficiencies in the processes, the many processes, and I want to, again, compliment the fact that we haven't collected taxes here at the City Hall, and nobody knows when we did. It's just amazing, and it, again, compliments to the Finance Department to say that we take our service to that next level where we're concerned about our constituents, not just concerned about our internal service, but our external. So again, compliments to that, and obviously $42.5 million says a lot when you talk about activity, and I'll be talking to Wisconsin Bank about that for savings. But I also just want to make sure that people understand, look at the list of accomplishments for 2021, and then look at the list of goals and projects for 2022. We've never seen that from a department in the city in the past. So again, compliments and thank you for everything you do. I know you guys eat, sleep, and drink finance, so thank you. And your short list, I'll help you. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Alder Perrella?
Can you please explain again, how will you improve the receivables?
So previously, we did not charge late fees, we did not send statements. We would send a bill and would never follow up. So there were bills out there from 2012 for a pole that was hit, and we never tried to collect it. Unfortunately, those bills are way past collectability, so we have written those off, but we went to RFP to get a debt collector for us, so we're going to be sending statements consistently. We're going to review if we want to start charging fees for the time it takes to process statements and have that money outstanding, but that's a different topic for a different day. But we're going to have this debt collector help us try to go after and get those funds that the city has lost at some point.
So a third party that will be that.
Correct.
Doing that for you. Okay, all right. What is the, yes?
I was just going to add to this, Alder. The city used to collect through the finance department, and over the years, I'm assuming just because of the amount of work that it is entailed and the lack of reinforcement that how important it was, it basically fell to the side. So the same situation basically was happening with our ambulance situation, where we would bill it, and then after 60, 90 days, it kind of falls to the side and nobody goes back after that money. And, you know, again, if you don't bug them, they don't pay, and it's the same situation. So we had a significant amount of money that had to be written off, that was just on our books, and it looked like we had this money coming, but it was already past the state statute.
Any other discussion, questions, comments, compliments?
I'll make a compliment. I would like to compliment about the loan documentation, and this is from the perspective of Redevelopment Authority, and thank you so much. Quarterly, we had been asking for reports, and the quarters kind of stretch to be very long quarters because they were going back to the spreadsheets. So thank you so much for automating that and keeping up with it, and it now gives the Redevelopment Authority the ability to pick up the phone and say, is there some reason you haven't paid us back this quarter? So I appreciate that.
Just a quick little thing. What is the parking stall rental billing that goes from AS400 system? I mean, I don't know what that is.
Sure, so we bill for monthly or quarterly, some annually, parking stall rentals through the parking utility. So finance has taken that over and put that into Munis. AS400 was that legacy system with the green blinking cursor on it. So we're trying to get rid of that system, so we pulled that into our current financial software.
If you recall the presentation that I gave recently, we reduced the AS400 by 37% to be exact, just in 2021. It has been a driving force and concern of mine that we get off of it as soon as possible, but we still have quite a bit of different departments throughout the city that have been using different programs. As an example, the loans program was on AS400. So again, we're pulling off as quickly as we can, but some of it we have to implement either Tyler Munis modules to take the place, or we have to look at additional modules that work with Tyler Munis to bridge the gap.
And I will say the special assessments in delinquent personal property, that's on the 2022 list for finance is 25% of AS400 right now. So that will be another big chunk that we'll be taking off.
A good way to think about the AS400 is a Commodore 64. You don't even know what that is.
Yeah, I do.
It's a television show.
I do.
We're all like,
I'll believe it in perspective.
All right,
It was
most
my
of the room
son's
doesn't
first.
know.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion on this one? If none, thank you very much. And with that, our next meeting is on March 14th. And we are looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it. The motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
That was great. Good job.